This is Sports Talk with Steve Jones and Seven Mountains Media Production, your daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball, featuring interviews with special guests. Now, here's your host, Mr. Steve Jones.
Now, you had a lot of fun yesterday.
I did have a lot of fun yesterday. You surprised me with being like, "Oh, we're discussing promotion relegation," and I was a happy camper. You made my day. Thank you, sir.
Well, no, I thought it was a great conversation.
It was a great conversation,
and I think that's the most important. There's several things that you need, in my opinion, to accomplish in a format like this. One is you have to be fun. All right, because it's sports. I know everybody takes every issue seriously, but it's still sports. It's fun. Can you give information? Can you, when the show is over with, does the listener or the viewer in this case feel like they learn more about something? Right?
Yeah.
I always feel that that's a goal you try to achieve every day with this. And the next part is good, informative, spirited debate about something. And that was one yesterday that I thought did all of that. You made tremendous points. I mean, most of them are wrong. No, I'm kidding everybody.
There we go.
I'm kidding everybody. I mean, you made some great points yesterday. And we were able to explain the two systems and why they are the way they are today and how it would be difficult for each to change to the other guy's system.
Yeah.
So, but it was a lot of fun talking about it yesterday.
It was a lot of fun, even though my arguments were incoherent. It was still enjoyable.
No, your arguments were great. No, you made really some great points yesterday.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's someone here who is not making great points in the world of sports. It's currently the top story, Mr. 76er himself, who doesn't want to be there anymore, James Harden.
But you know what's interesting about this is that when the Sixers said they were pulling his name off the trade table, he had already said 24 hours earlier he wanted to be dealt and it's not coming back. Well, why do you make that announcement? I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the Sixers. They are... Look, there's certain players that are really terrific players in their own right, in their own world. But in basketball, in any team sport, you're not a golfer. You're not a tennis player. You have to work with other people around you. And James Harden has tried this many different ways. He was the sixth man, and I thought this was the most effective part of his career. I know he had scoring championships with Houston. But when he was the sixth man with Oklahoma City, they had Kevin Durant and Westbrook and so forth, and they made it to the final loss to the Miami Heat. He played really well, had a role. Now he goes to Houston, and look, this has been tried two different ways now in his career. Actually, three different ways. They brought in Chris Paul to be the point guard to take all the pressure off the ball handling so he could just score. It wasn't enough. He then went with the big three look with Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant with the Brooklyn Nets. That didn't work. Then he went to work with the dominant big man in Joel Embiid, and that didn't work. Who's the common denominator in all three scenarios?
Monsieur James Harden.
Right. In other words, really terrific in his own right. But you're not a golfer or a tennis player. Okay? You have to work with other people. The golfer may get up and talk about my team, my team, my team. Guess what? Who hits the shots? In the end, who makes the final decision on the club? Okay? It's you. I mean, it's you're an individual surrounded by people, but in the end, okay, the other people didn't shoot 72, you did. In basketball, this is where I admired Oscar Robertson tremendously. I know this goes way back before your time. Oscar Robertson came out of the University of Cincinnati, awesome player. Olympic gold medalist, 1960 Olympics in Rome with Jerry West and those guys. And Oscar Robertson stayed in Cincinnati because he went to the Cincinnati Royals. Well, the Cincinnati Royals were good. They had Jerry Lucas and so forth. And he, one year, became the first player ever to average a triple-double in a season. Russell Westbrook finally did that after him decades later. But they couldn't get past anywhere. And so finally there was a trade where he was dealt to the Milwaukee Bucks to work with a young guy by the name of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Oscar Robertson tailored his game to fit in with Jabbar. And the Bucks won the championship. And everybody kept saying at the time, how's this going to work? He's such a dominant player. He's a dominant player. He has to have the ball. He has to have the ball. Robertson made it work. James Harden didn't make it work in Philadelphia because I don't think James Harden's capable of making it work. He's an individual playing a team sport. Now, is he a great shooting individual? Yes, there's no question. He's been an outstanding scorer, maybe not shooter, but scorer his entire career. Great scorer. So let's not take anything away from him when it comes to that part. But in terms of being a team guy, I think he tries to be, or he thinks he's being a great team guy. But he's not. He's not. And I don't think he really knows how to do it. He's kind of like a fish out of water when he attempts to play that kind of game. I'm trying to see. Everybody, I'm trying. It's very much like the athlete that thinks they're giving it everything they have, and the coach knows they can give more.
To be a team player, he has to have the ball in his hands. And that doesn't really work.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You look at the Heatles, LeBron, Chris Bosh, D-Wade. The reason they worked so well is after that first season, they all sat down and said, okay, we got to figure this out. It's not going to be his ball, then my ball. It's going to be our ball, and we're sharing it, and we're cutting, and we're moving, and we're doing all this stuff. Right. And they won a championship because of it, because they worked. They understood how to play together. It was functional. It made sense. Harden needs the ball in his hands at all times. And that doesn't work when you have the MVP of the league sitting there being like, hey, I'd love to have the ball sometime.
Now, the MVP of the league's got to be better in deciding games. He's only 39% from the field in deciding games in his career. Okay?
Not great.
So he has not been a great clutch player. And please, don't give me the long list of regular season games he's won, okay? Like, the playoffs are different, all right? It's best against best at that point. But what the guys in Miami did is they figured out that on a given night, if X doesn't have it, X needs to understand, hey, you're struggling tonight, you don't have it. But D-Wade does. Hey, so let's check your ego into the door, make sure we get D-Wade shots because you can tell in the first quarter he's got it tonight. Or D-Wade, you don't have it tonight. Hey, be a facilitator. And that's the part that Harden can't get. And it's just not in his nature. It's just, he's not going to change as a player now. And that is, that's who he is. And it's another roadblock for the Sixers. It all stems back to the Ben Simmons draft choice. They're still paying for it. Now, I will be blunt with everybody here when it comes to the Simmons draft pick. As everybody knows, I didn't like him in college. I was like, I don't get it. Can't shoot. The NBA game's a shooting game. He can pass. He's a really good defender. All right. Again, I have the ability to look at somebody and say, hey, check box, X. All right. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what the rest of the draft was and who they should have picked. I'd have to go back and look it up. I don't know. The Fulton Tatum thing was easy. The Simmons one, I cannot remember for the life of me who the other guys in the top 10 happen to be that probably be better picks.
The 2016 draft, for those wondering at home, the top 10 picks going from 10 to 1 for fun. Thon Maker didn't do well.
No.
Jakob Poeltl, not awful. Marquise Chris.
No.
Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
Would have preferred to have him right now. Buddy Hield. Chris Dunn, Dragan Bender, and the top two above them, Ben Simmons at 1, is Jaylen Brown and Brandon Ingram.
Okay, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
A few players you'd rather have over Simmons.
Brown
there.
has been really good. I mean, yeah. Is Brown a great player? Nobody's an excellent player.
But prefer to have Brown, prefer to have Ingram, prefer to have Murray.
Ingram, didn't quite. I mean, Los Angeles was in a different spot at the time. He has thrived in New Orleans, and I give him credit for that. Dunn was more of a defensive player at Providence, if I recall, more than anything else.
And I'd say Jamal Murray would be
Jamal Murray,
much better player.
How often did you hear me talk during the regular season about the difference maker in the Denver Nuggets is that Jamal Murray's back from his ACL and what a difference it's made in them being a very good team to being a great team.
It's gigantic.
And I said that over and over again in the regular season. Right? And in the playoffs, it proved out. I really have always liked Murray, liked his game a lot. And they ended up taking the guy that got all the hype. You can't look at hype. You've got to be able to look at guys that can play and fit what you want to do. And it's and to be honest with you, before he got into the playoffs, what were the meaningful games that Simmons played in his career? He didn't play any meaningful games at all. I think LSU was under 500.
They were under 500. He played at Montverde, and he didn't do too hot, if I remember. They didn't win anything.
See, I just thought I never got it. I mean, I understand what you see in him. You see you're thinking to yourself, he's got the same kind of height as Magic Johnson. He's an excellent passer. Magic Johnson was an excellent passer. He's not a bad rebounder because of height. He's a really good defender. Great. But the game is not the same game as when Magic played. Okay, and Showtime, right? Okay, first of all, the Sixers had nobody out there that could actually do Showtime. I'm not kidding. I mean, there's no James Worthy out there running the floor. There's no Michael Cooper. You know, guys that ran. There's no Byron Scott that can set up on that 3-point line and hit some shots. They don't have that. And Simmons is not a Showtime player. Okay? But the bottom line is he can't shoot.
They always said going into that draft, we'll make him a shot. Like, he'll get a shot to be okay.
But you have to work on it in the offseason. And I have had questions without being around him as to how much he actually worked in the offseason.
Well, that's the thing. We always see these videos of him. He's always shooting threes in the offseason. And then he shot, one in a preseason game? And they're like, oh, he's putting in work. But if he shoots 30 in a random practice over the summer and doesn't shoot any of them during the season.
But Kyle, I can take a video of you right now shooting threes, and we can put it out there and say, look at Kyle working on his 3-point shot, and then for the next 5 days, you don't take any.
Nope.
Okay? I mean, let's be realistic. I can shoot any video I want. Look, Kyle Left's really working on his game right now, and we do a 3-minute video of you taking threes left and right, and then you don't take another shot for a week.
I remember watching a video, I believe it was, who was it? It was JJ Redick talking with, I think maybe Jason Tatum or somebody. I forget who it was. It was a Duke guy. They were talking about their off seasons and how JJ during his off season will put up X amount of shots, not just from 3, but from inside and everywhere. And he's a 3-point specialist, but he's taking shots from everywhere.
Well, that's because he understood who he was.
And most of these guys, at the bare minimum, will work on their shot every offseason. Even if they're the best, even if they're LeBron. They're working on shots to get better at certain things.
By all accounts, works his brains out.
He works his brains out.
Yep.
And most of what they do is shot work. Of course, they're working on their handle, they're working on their dribbling.
Sure.
But there's only so much that gets you when, you got to do that, but they also understand they need to have the final piece of it, which is the shot. So last season, De'Aaron Fox worked on it.
Yeah.
That worked out pretty well for him.
He's a good player.
Has Ben Simmons ever truly worked on his shot? Do we know? And the shot doesn't count as a floater. That doesn't count as a shot. I can make a floater.
But again, my point is, I can put out all the videos I want. Unless I'm seeing a daily video, I question what he was doing the other 7 days. All right? Yeah, I can put out a video. Kyle Left taking a look. Kyle's really working on his game. Kyle goes to the beach after that for a few days. Anybody can put out videos. So you can put out this false narrative about how hard you're working, or it could be reflective of what you're actually doing. That's the question you have to have, because the results are showing up that you took a whole bunch of days off and weren't out there shooting every day, because I'm watching you play now and it doesn't look like you worked on anything. Yeah,
it's craziness.
Hey, now look, like Justin Thomas, let's go back to the golfer reference, works on his game all the time. He's slumping. Okay? Everybody hits a slump. Okay? He's a great player. He's won 2 PGA championships. But he's in a slump. He shot He shot 80 at the U.S. Open. He shot 81 at the British Open. I mean, but he's a great player who's in a slump, and everybody knows he works on his game. They see him working on it all the time. It doesn't take much for a reporter to see if a guy's working on his game. Just walk down to the range. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you can work on it. It doesn't go anywhere. So that's a distinct possibility, especially when it's go time. So yeah, Harden is just one of those guys who's a fabulous individual scorer in a team game. And you do always have to strive, no matter what you're doing, in my personal opinion, to make yourself better all the time. So Monday, I'm over at football practice. Who's at football practice? Mike Rhodes. Mike Rhodes got into the building at 6:30, 7 in the morning, somewhere in there. This is Lash Building. Okay, not the basketball office. Lash Building. Because the basketball players have been off this past week after the 2 games they played in the Bahamas. Mike attended meetings. Mike talked with coaches. Okay? Mike watched film. Mike went to practice. Right? Why did Mike do all that? Because he was trying to see in best practices some things that the football does, and what am I doing as a coach? Am I on the right track? And even though Mike's experienced, he's gone to the NCAA tournament left and right, he doesn't take for granted that he has all the answers. He doesn't. All right? Same thing in this profession. You're always looking for ways in this profession. Okay. Now, do I turn that phrase right? Do I do whatever right? Am I prepared enough? Am I seeing the right things? Am I asking the right questions? Am I giving the right perspective? You're always trying to do that all the time. You don't just sit back and walk in the booth and go, "Hey, here we go. Let's just start," and not prepare anything. Right? And I've seen people like that. Believe me, like give me a roster and go. Have I seen the give me a roster and go people? Yes. Okay. Speaking of games.
Ooh.
Right, actually, we go 2 areas. Number 1, this is the first day of the Grange Fair.
It is. It is.
Day. I think we have something that's set up there.
We do. We have the Seven Mountains Media glamping tent,
Yes.
glamour camping.
Yes.
So we are there. I will be there myself at some point today or tomorrow. Over the next few days, we'll be there all the time. Seven Mountains Media.
Enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. I will. I'm excited for fair food. I do love me some good fair food.
Oh, good. Snyder's and all this. Yeah.
For me, first time I had it last year was the apple dumpling with the peach ice cream or vanilla ice cream or cinnamon, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Oh, gorgeous.
Do they still have monkey bread there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Of course.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a little while since I've gone. It's a long walk.
It is.
When you're stopped every 10 paces.
You need to get a mustache and put on a fake mustache, fake eyebrows, all of it.
How are we going to be? How's camp? How are we going to be? How's camp? How are we going to be? And I appreciate every one of it because that means they're interested and excited about it.
But you want to enjoy some fair food.
It's just, I can't. It has nothing to do with the fair, which is awesome. Whatever. That's my issue. Not anybody else's. So the fair starts. It's great. It brings everybody together. The longest single running encampment in the country, which is
crazy,
just remarkable. I always find it remarkable whenever I did go to it because I used to cover it for radio and TV. Used to do both. Because I had a show entitled 15 Minutes for about 7 or 8 years on WPSU TV. And we'd always do a segment or like a full show where we went out to the Grange, and I'd be clever and do it in combination with doing the radio stuff first, then do the TV stuff.
Smart man.
One day. Right. So I remember those days, but it's a lot of fun. and it brings a lot of people together, and people, that tent gets passed down from family member to family member. Unfortunately, when there's problems in a marriage, that does become a disputed piece of property. I've heard stories about that 1,000 times. And then for the baseball out there, this is going to be a really fun weekend because tonight is Bucko-mania night.
It is.
And the Pirate Parrot's going to be there, and a lot of Pittsburgh Pirate theme tonight. Tomorrow is the LeVar Leap bobblehead 25th anniversary, which is remarkable. We just did a hype video for Penn State football, and the LeVar Leap is in there, along with John's 50 years since John's Heisman and 25 since LeVar's Leap.
Not bad. Not a bad anniversary.
Yeah. And there are going to be fireworks after the game tomorrow night. College Township's going to present that. And then Josiah Vieira. Josiah did pass away. Progeria is just... we all loved him, Josiah. I always called him JoJo. I go, JoJo. He goes, Steve. Right. The St. Louis Cardinals loved him. I mean, Ollie Marmol, who's the manager of the Cardinals today, thought the absolute world of Josiah. We all did. So all the players are going to wear number 10 Josiah Vieira jerseys because that's the jersey he wore when he was here. They're all going to wear that. They're going to do a jersey off the back auction, which is presented by PSECU. It's going to benefit the Children's Miracle Network and Geisinger. Okay, and that's Sunday. So it's 6:35 tonight, 6:35 Sunday, 6:35 tonight, 6:35 tomorrow, 4:05 Sunday. So that's a big weekend.
It's a very big weekend.
A lot going on in conjunction with the Grange Fair.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. It's a big weekend. Now football. Let's see. Let's tell you exactly what happened yesterday in football. This is really,
we talking pros, college?
No, I'm talking about Penn State.
Oh, Penn State.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let me give you
that team.
Let me give you all the info from yesterday.
Let's hear it, Steve.
James told them that it's time to take a day off. So if you saw a lot of large individuals at Tussey Mountain last night on go-karts or maybe playing par 3 golf or whatever, that was them. And to be honest with you, they earned it.
That they did.
They've been stacking some days. So since they've been stacking some days, like James does this once every camp. Sometimes it's, hey, let's go over and have a pool party. Hey, let's go over and do bowling. Hey, so yesterday was a day of
chill.
Right? So back to work today.
And again, we're now, 2 weeks away?
2 weeks from tomorrow.
Almost the season. It's almost here.
Yeah. This is, I spoke last night in Hershey. I said the vineyard at Hershey. I didn't realize it had been open for 11 years. It's beautiful. The only thing is it's right next to 283. So every once in a while, truck would go by. And I was kidding around. I said one time I spoke in Northumberland. And the restaurant, it was an outdoor venue like this. And the place is packed, had a couple hundred people there. And it was adjacent to the train tracks.
Oh, what a good location.
And every 15 minutes, dun, 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 we come through, you just stop, you'd have to make fun of it. And so the only thing was, it was really a great venue. Nice crowd there last night. Char Moret Curtis talked about her women's initiative, which is really important, and she's got it in gear. And it's just going to get better. And then Mike Rhodes came off vacation to come up there and do it, and then drove back down to Virginia to finish his vacation.
Dang, Mike.
And Mike was up there, and we talked, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And so that was last. So here we are. We're gearing up. They got practice this afternoon, got one tomorrow morning, then they got one Sunday night. And then Monday's the first day of class, so they're off that day. So they're always off the first day of class.
Which is logical, makes sense.
Yeah, it's time to gear up and get academics going. And yeah, it's also a big arrival weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed the traffic yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy!
You know where I have not gone in the past 2 days that I probably needed to, but I'm going to go at late at night. Walmart, Walmart, Target. I understand going there. I will walk in and there'll be nothing on the shelves.
Yeah, that's why there's a few things that I need. All right, for the season, for example, just like simple stuff. Okay, am I good on ink, for example, so forth? I bought all that stuff 3 weeks ago. That way, it's just sitting there because
Smart.
I know that there's a good chance it might not be there.
Oh,
So might not. So that's one of the reasons I did that. All right. So last night the Eagles had their preseason game. The Marcus Mariota played. I'm listening last night driving home to Merrill Reese and Mike Quick. And Merrill was so funny. He says, because Mariota, I mean, the offense didn't really do anything. They had 3 points in the first half. That was it. Then McGee comes in the game. He goes, oh, here it is. I can hear it on WIP right now. He should be the second-string quarterback. He says, they brought Marcus Mariota here for a reason. And he's right. Okay. Like the battle for the McGee kid is to be the third-string quarterback, all right? And, the game ended up 18-18. They had a couple of guys, though, get hurt. Neck injuries. Cleveland was one of them, the wide receiver. And so...
Yeah, and was it Moro Ojmo, defensive lineman, also left injured with a neck injury. Yeah. A few other injuries were suffered as well. A bunch of players had to exit with injuries, which was not a great sight for the Eagles.
No, but they didn't play their ones and twos. I mean, they had maybe a couple of guys. Like Gainwell did play last night.
Gainwell played last night. The big one, I think, in terms of injury was Nolan Smith left with a shoulder injury,
and with Hassan Reddick now out with after thumb surgery, you're thin there.
So losing him wasn't great. Zach McPherson, I believe, tore his Achilles, which means he's probably done for the year.
Who did?
Cornerback Zach McPherson. He tore his Achilles.
Zach McPherson,
backup.
Really? No, I know. He played his first 2 years here.
Mm-hmm.
Then he transferred to Texas Tech.
And I believe current backup to Avonte Maddox, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, Zach is a tremendous kid. Yeah, that's a hard one to hear because like him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And believe me, talented. But the problem is Penn State was pretty stacked at his position, so he found another spot and got himself to the NFL, and we give him all the credit in the world for that. And his brother Josh was an intern with us over at Channel 3.
Not bad.
So,
my least favorite part of the season.
Does the 7 areas of separation bother you sometimes?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I understand. You're a very cool person, Steve.
No, I've been around.
I understand it.
No, this is one of those been around a long time. So things
know
happen.
everybody.
So at some point, things do happen.
Yeah. My least favorite part of the season is seeing these injuries preseason. Yeah. That is my least favorite part of it, is seeing so many guys in every sport preseason wise get hurt. Yeah. And you're like, this sucks. Like, I just want to see these guys go into the season and be healthy. That's all we ever ask for, is a healthy season to see everybody out there. And these guys get hurt and you're just like, I wonder, like, what if? Yeah. What if he didn't get hurt? What if he didn't do this, that, or the other?
Well, I want every team to go in with their best.
Yeah.
That's why people will ask me the week of a game, hey, X for the other team can't play or whatever. And what do you think? I said, well, I wish he would play. They said, why? I said, because I'd rather have the best against the best.
You'd rather know you're the best than know maybe you weren't the best and you won by luck.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I'd just rather have it be best against best. I mean, injuries are going to happen. And as I pointed out last night, Penn State, its starting offensive line and wide receiver last year was Parker Washington. They had Olu, they had Landon, and all three couldn't play in the Rose Bowl, and Penn State had the depth to survive it and won 35-21. Right? That's what depth means when you have it. But you still want to see best against best. That, to me, is part of maybe my idealistic glory of sports. But, yeah. All right, so now I want to talk about an article I read this morning, Golf Digest. Right. But this is not what you think it is.
It is not what I think it is. Okay. Do tell.
It was an interview with Brandel Chambly, who is, in my opinion, the well-prepared, articulate analyst on Golf Channel on the set. He is extremely well-prepared. He is a voracious reader, you can tell. He is not, as much as he loves golf and loves to break down a swing, which he does, he also is well-read in many other areas. So this is going to then tip toward your guy, Messi.
Oh, how so?
See, I told you I could get you drawn into the conversation.
I was going to say, you're starting with a golfer, you're discussing, he didn't really fully talk about the golf side of things, and now you're saying Messi.
Yes. And eventually, after going, it's a long interview about his childhood and look, he has been, as an analyst, let's face it, he is very opinionated. And he made a couple of really interesting points. One was about Saudi money and LIV, of which everybody who watches Golf Channel knows he is so against LIV. And he does not have a lot of great things to say about Greg Norman. Has always praised Phil as a golfer, but has not praised him at all for this, right? And he was talking about how much credit he gives to Messi. I don't think people realize Messi could have received $1.7 billion to go to the Saudi League. And he said no. Now, did Messi leverage that offer to get what he got from Inter Miami? Yes. But he still told them no. Mbappe told them no. And these are people that can afford to do it in part because, hey, look, they're going to get, Mbappe is going to get great money wherever he plays. Mm-hmm. Messi has a great deal in Miami, right? But they each did say no.
And do you know what they completely said no to? There's details that came out about Neymar's contract in Saudi Arabia. I believe second to Ronaldo in terms of total numbers. The reports of benefits Neymar is getting, just to give you an idea of what he probably turned down. And this is not just the contract part of it. This is the everything part of it.
Right.
Neymar is getting a house with 25 bedrooms, a 40 by 10 meter swimming pool with 3 saunas, 5 full-time staff for the house, a Bentley Continental GT, an Aston Martin DBX, a Lamborghini Huracan, a 24-hour driver. All bills for hotels, restaurants, and various services during his off days will be sent to the club to pay, a private plane at his disposal, 500,000 euros for each social media post that promotes Saudi Arabia, and as €100 million a year contract. That is otherworldly.
Right. No question. Look, they are flowing in oil. If you sit down and you just say to Siri, and I'll tell you what, one quick side on Siri. This is years ago. I was talking to Jack Ham on the phone, and he says to me, oh, God, he says, Joanne and Siri are fighting. Because Joanne's really smart. He says, Joanne and Siri are fighting. So it tells me Siri got something wrong. But if you ask Siri, for example, how many years of oil reserve is there in Saudi Arabia? And it'll come back at 221 years.
A lot.
221 years. So you're not going to run them out of gas. You're not going to run them out of oil. Right? So the money is going to be there. Right now, oil is in the $82 to $84 a barrel range. Is that what it is right now?
Quite the high number currently.
Yeah. And so they are rolling in dough. Chambly, to his credit, was critical of taking Saudi money all the way back to 2019 with the Saudi Invitational. He was critical of people going and taking the money then, because look, it's one thing for a government to have relations with Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, because look, those are geopolitical issues. Okay? Right? So you've got to be able to somehow make something work instead of always having up a wall between governments. Right? Doesn't mean, you have to have standards, but there has, you have to have levels of communication. When it comes to individuals and teams, one of my concerns would be, and I know the NBA has a rule about this, okay, no foreign government entity can have more than 20% of an NBA team. So when, was it Qatar? Bought into the Washington Mystics, into the Wizards, and into the Capitals, and to the TV network, they bought 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But my concern would be is if they start coming in here and saying, hey, we're going to sponsor the entire, pick one. Let's pick MLS. We're going to sponsor MLS. We're going to save the whole darn league. Right? What? No offense. I don't feel good about that.
No, not at all.
Not in the least. I mean, where you're just trying to use your money to, promote your image, and your image is, let's use a kind word. Your image is at best mixed.
It's subpar.
It's okay. So, and Chambly talks about that, and it was a fascinating interview in that part as to why he feels as strongly as he does about it. He then talked about the Twitter part of it. And this is the point I've made to you how many times, Kyle?
75?
I said
500?
In other words, I've asked you, how many people are actually commenting on Twitter?
On a bad day?
I mean, I'm talking about like on a topic. The actual different number of people that are commenting.
Oh, at least if it's a huge one, millions.
How many of them are bots?
Half at least.
When you're so Chambly has been criticized on Twitter. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's at the U.S. Open in Los Angeles. And Golf Channel doesn't, NBC carries it, but Golf Channel's coverage goes to X part, and then all of a sudden, Peacock and NBC take
split
over
a little bit,
and so forth. So you've got a lot of time off the set. Well, he said he walked around the U.S. Open. He said, and people, he's recognizable. He's, for a golf fan. Now, the people watching this may not be golf fans, but for a golf fan, he's an extremely recognizable face. He's really the face of it in some ways. I mean, Rich Lerner's really good, and they've paired him up with some really good people over the years, like Frank Nobilo and and Colin Montgomery, people like that. But he's still been the constant face of it.
He's the guy.
You know how many negative comments he got about his opinions as he walked around the course? None. Zero. Okay? Now, of course, people aren't as bold when they meet you, but that tells you something. Right? You can't get too wrapped up in a series of Twitter comments because you don't know how many of those are bots.
You see these usernames that are like Steve75X Jones with a Z and then a bunch of numbers, and people think that's a real person.
Right.
No, it's not.
Right. You don't know how many bots are out there. That's why I do make fun of Twitter upset with whatever. Twitter ablaze with whatever. I look at it and go, I don't click onto it. Why do I want to click on it? What the heck do I care? What the heck do I care? Now, there are great ways to use Twitter. Like anything, there are great ways to use it. Right? Penn State football uses Twitter to get stuff out all the time. People react to it, right? Which is great. They're like anything. They're great uses of it. I think I'll never forget during the Boston Marathon bombing. Right? I got over to Twitter because the reporters were tweeting out as I was doing the show. So I'm doing my show at the same time this is happening. So since the same time it's happening, I can't sit there and watch a TV. I didn't have a TV. There's no TV in this room. Right? And so I was able to get through from reporters' tweets as to what was being said at press conferences about what they were doing at the time. Right? That is not just that's a tremendous use of Twitter.
It's amazing.
Right? But somebody's opinion, Twitter is ablaze with if they decide that they're going to crush somebody, they can crush anybody because they have bots to do it. So that's why that part you just remotely pay attention to. Who cares?
No one cares, I believe, is the answer you are looking for.
Again, using it in such a way where I talked about the news conference, using it in such a way, hey, Penn State football, hey, come on out, watch the game, the whole thing. Hey, fans get involved, but, whatever. Or a game maybe, even if a game is over and people have opinions on pro-con, that's fine to have a pro-con opinion on it. But it's all these en masse, opinions, Twitter firmly, I'll tell you what the latest one has been. The latest trend all summer has been, look at this strike call, okay, on everything.
Terrible. Awful.
Right? Worst strike call ever. Okay, that's been ablaze on Twitter all summer. It even crept into the Little League World Series. Look at this strike call in the Little League World Series game. No offense. I've watched the Little League World Series for years. Okay? The strike zone in the Little League World Series has been loosey-goosey forever because they just want to get, the ball, okay? They don't want a game with 27 walks. I got it, okay?
My favorite Twitter bot type of thing is, as a soccer fan, the big debate. Again, we love discussing the who's better debates. The big one's Messi, Ronaldo, and it was for years, especially when they were both in Spain with Real Madrid and Barcelona. And Real Madrid or Barcelona would post, and within 30 seconds, there would be thousands of comments saying, but Messi's better. Right. It could be a post about the brand new jersey, but Messi's better.
Exactly.
I don't care. I'm here to see a jersey.
Right.
I don't care if Messi's better in this case scenario, or it could be discussing the women's team for Barca Femina.
Right. Check out this kit.
But Ronaldo's better.
Look at the new Arsenal kit. Right.
It's at some point, people have to understand, there are real people out there on social media, on Twitter, but there also are not. It's how it is.
And that's why I can't take it seriously.
Nope.
Can't even remotely take it seriously. So the other day, for example, Justin Turner struck out on a 3-2 pitch. Is the ball outside the zone? Yes. Worst strike call. He says, both TV networks upset over strike call. This is the big tweet they put out. Okay. Right. You want to know what the rating was for the umpire behind home plate on accuracy that night?
99 point something.
94.
Not bad.
Okay. Last I checked, if you got a 94 on your test, that's an A. Okay. Now, did he get that call wrong? Sure. Okay. He got the call wrong.
Oh, no. Human error. Oh, gosh.
All right. Yeah, there was one. It was some bad one of that one. It was the D-backs game or something like that. The guy had a 92% rating on accuracy behind the plate. You can look that stuff up. It doesn't take long to do it, right? They invented this thing called the internet, where you can
what? Steve, what's that?
This stuff. But I'm saying the guy behind home plate, and I don't know which umpire it was 94% on accuracy on the grade for the night. Well, okay, he got one wrong. Okay, he got one wrong.
How dare he?
Well, guess what? The guy that swung and missed on strike 3, he got it wrong too. He missed. Pitcher that threw ball 4, way up in the zone and missed, he got it wrong. Okay, strike zone's down here. Hey, everybody makes mistakes. Hey, and people ask me broadcasting wise, what's a good game? I said, if I can keep my mistakes under 5, it's a really good day. I said, and 9 times out of 10, I know right away when I made a mistake. Like, idiot. Then I make Roger think it was his fault.
His name is Kyle, not Lyle.
Roger, what did you tell me that for?
So you're not blaming Jerry for those ones. Got it.
I mean, Roger will try to help. Like, he'll go, flag, and I'll be saying, there's a flag down the play, and the Jag will be having a flag. I said, Roger, I already said it. He's like, oh, it's okay. But he's trying to help. Yeah, so it's okay, I got it. But, do you make, now, do my mistakes determine the outcome of the game? No. But like I said, if I can get 2, 3 mistakes in a game, okay, all right. I'm not happy about it. I want to be able to look back at some point in my career and go, I don't think I made any. Right? But you're human. You make a mistake, you misidentify a guy. You look at it quickly and you say it's the 22 and it's the 27. You're like, okay, and you correct it right away. When they come, whatever. I mean, only stuff like that. That happens. It's the same thing with umpires, referees, coaches, players, right? Everybody. But that's been the big thing all summer. Strike calls. Now, why is it? Because somebody's campaigning hard for robo-umps. And I'm campaigning hard for that guy to still be back there. Now, have I seen in the spike? Now, look, the spikes umpires are not, the umpires they're using are regionalized. And there's some really good ones. Albert Jones is terrific. Ian Pittenger is terrific. And they got a few other guys that I have a lot of respect for, right? There's a guy from Central PA, I think more toward the Harrisburg area, that actually umpires the Mountain West.
Ooh.
Right? And he's come up and done something. He's really good. And there are a couple guys you sit there and go, the heck was that? Right? But unlike minor league umpires who are actually trying to work their way up, like these guys aren't trying to work their way up. They're just, they've got lives, jobs, things like that. If and when the spikes, and more on the question of when they get back to affiliate baseball, you'll be seeing guys that are umpiring games that are trying to work their way up. And again, I don't want this part out of it. I just don't. It's amazing how it has become a more entertaining game, because now you're being forced to by the rules to play an old way, meaning 2 in the left, 2 in the right. No over exaggerated shifts where it looks like a softball game, right? And softball's great in its own right, but
seeing 3 guys on the right side of the infield and the third baseman behind second base, you're like, I don't know what's happening here.
And the second baseman is the short fielder and right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that can throw the guy out at first. It's become a more entertaining game this year, right? And which is what I give them credit. It's something they needed to do. But you also have a Yankee prospect. Former.
You're smiling a little bit.
No. Former Yankee prospect. No, he makes good points here. He's a former Yankee prospect, so he's out of the game now. He says that he feels the downfall of the Yankees, and right now they're under 500. What are they, 60 and 61?
60 and 61. We got the Red Sox tonight on Apple TV+.
Great. I got a game tonight. And he said he could see it in the organization that they started leaning heavily in the last 2 years he was in the organization on analytics. But he makes a really good point about that. The point he makes is that by focusing so much on analytics, launch angle, shifts, and things like that, that the Yankees, in his opinion, got away from fundamentals. The Yankees, for example, you watch them, right, the last few years, not just this year, are not a good base running team.
Nope.
Okay? That's a fundamental that is not dealt with in analytics. Okay? That's a fundamental. The Yankees have not been a good defensive team. Now, shifts have helped them get out of innings and so forth, but for a long time the Yankees have not really been a good defensive team. They were not a good defensive team when Jeter played. Ooh, sacrilege. I mean, honest commentary on Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter was a very good shortstop, not a great shortstop. Robinson Cano was not a good second baseman. You know what made them better as an infield? And A-Rod was at third. What made him better was first baseman.
Teixeira was great.
When they got Teixeira, all of a sudden everybody's errors went down because he cleaned up a lot, just like Tino Martinez did before him, cleaned up a lot of sins in the infield. And a good first baseman can do that. Now, Rizzo can do that, but Rizzo, of course, has been out of the lineup. Somebody will have to explain to me why it took a month and a half to diagnose a concussion, but that's a different story. But his point was they started focusing so much on analytics that they then became a fundamentally poor organization. Dave Tremblay, who's in his second year with the Spikes as their manager, managed the Baltimore Orioles for 4 years. Okay? And Dave preaches every day, fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. You're the right fielder, okay? No need to showcase your arm to the world and throw it all the way to home plate when you need to hit the cutoff man. Okay? Need to. Why? It's a fundamental. Okay? The catcher can tell the first baseman is the cutoff man. Okay? Let it go. Right? But at least give him the option. Right? Number of times I've seen cutoff, boom, throw to second, got him. Ooh. That's just a simple, fundamental play. Right? Your ability to make the easy play in every sport. Well, it sounds so easy to say that, but it's not as easy as people think to make the easy play. Okay? The easy play doesn't get on SportsCenter.
Everyone goes for the highlight reel plays. You see guys now in the NFL quite often, these running backs who are like, I'm going to hurdle this guy. And then the guy just stands up and grabs him and tackles him. And you're like, why are you trying to hurdle him? Why not try and go through and get an extra 2-3 yards? Yeah, you lost 2 extra yards because you tried to hurdle a guy when clearly it wasn't going to work.
I know.
It's a constant battle now.
Yeah.
Or the players, you're like, make the simple pass driving to the basket.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray makes a simple pass. He's like, I'm going to make the pass I need to make here.
Right. Well, that's why I talked with Mike Rhodes last night about this. Penn State scored 43 baskets in his second game against Victoria, which is a good, they're a good team, right? The first team is not a good team. But the second one, Victoria, was a good team. They played Xavier to within 10. Mm-hmm. All right? Penn State had 43 baskets in the game. They assisted on 28. Okay, that's just good, solid, fundamental basketball. Every once in a while, you'll see guys overpass it. But at least their mindset is the right thing. Okay, trying to be the good team player. But, yeah, okay, just do simple.
Just tap it in.
Right, just tappy. Right? But, but it's amazing if you can do the simple things, you can then graduate to doing the more complicated things. Perfect the simple things first, then move on to the more complicated. I always talk about everybody has their capabilities are in a box. And anytime you stray outside of the box of capabilities, you get uncomfortable. But as time goes and experience happens, the box gets bigger. And what was uncomfortable before becomes comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I said, and that's what experience does. You need to do simple first. And that's something that you'll see a lot of spectacular young players. And if you watch them play now when they're just a few years older, they're a little more refined because they now understand the importance of simple and then add in the elements of spectacular.
The flair, right? The pizzazz.
Watch Acuna, Ronald Acuna Jr., right? You watch him play, and then you watch Trae Young play. Trae Young still has not mastered the part about simple. It's really, he's got a lot of Harden in him, James Harden in him, right? You watch Acuna play, and Acuna, who was a lot of flash, dash, flare, does a lot of things really well, all the simple stuff, while still doing some things, but he doesn't showcase himself anymore. He just plays. And I love watching Acuna play. Runs the bases beautifully, hits with power, plays with passion, energy. That's a part about Lindor that's always bothered me with the Mets. Lindor, when he played for Cleveland, was having a blast out there. He was so much fun to watch because he was having fun playing. Now you watch him with the Mets, it looks like it's a job.
Well, that's because even though the Yankees are terrible, the Mets are worse. But that's a different discussion for another day.
You seem
I think.
Happy about that.
I'm not happy about that, Steve.
Steve Cohen, money cannot buy you happiness.
No, it cannot.
Or a pennant.
No, it cannot.
But it can get us to the weekend.
It can get us to the weekend. And of course, thanks for tuning into Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the Seven Mountains Media production. Check back daily for all the latest sports news and analysis with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball, Mr.